Jamie Lee Arrow was born in Sweden on July 25, 2001. Her parents separated shortly after her birth, and the court granted them joint custody. Although Jamie primarily lived with her mother, Jeanette Jessica Carlson, she also spent some weekends with her dad, Isakin Jonsson. Isakin's life had been turbulent from an early age as he cycled in and out of various institutions. By his 20s, he had accumulated multiple convictions for theft and drug-related assaults across different regions of southern and central Sweden. Jamie's day-to-day life with her mother remained relatively stable. At first, Jamie loved her weekend visits with her father, but those weekends also carried episodes of trauma that eventually made then 5-year-old Jamie fear her own dad. She later recalled one particular incident where he asked if she was hungry and then microwaved a pizza for her. Jamie began eating the toppings first. For some reason, this enraged him, and he accused her of lying about being hungry, grabbed the plate, and smashed it.
Jamie later admitted that Isakin would often watch gory horror films in front of her, as if he was studying them while his daughter sat beside him. Jamie would grow so terrified that she would shut her eyes and wait for the movie to end. Looking back now, she believed that her father intentionally exposed her to violent imagery, hoping that it would cause her to become desensitized. Around this time, Isakin also began developing a deep fascination with the occult. His apartment was covered with demonic imagery, and he kept a collection of bladed weapons. He would often turn off the lights and ask her to keep looking at the wall. Then he'd ask her if she saw something, and when Jamie claimed that she didn't, Isakin made her stare at the wall till she said she could see something. Eventually, Jamie started to notice faces coming out of the walls in other strange, distorted shapes. Terrified, she would beg her father to stop, but Isakin would calmly, almost coldly, tell her that she needed to get used to it because the spirits, allegedly, are always going to be there watching over her. He also made up disturbing stories, specifically to frighten her. He would claim that he and Jamie were angels sent from hell and insisted that Jamie would one day grow up even more powerful and evil than he was. Whenever Jamie asked him to stop with the horror stories, Isakin would start laughing like a maniac.
When Jamie was around 6 or 7 years old, Isakin began dating a woman 8 years older than him named Helle Christiansen. Helle had 5 children from a previous relationship, each of whom lived with their respective fathers. Just like Isakin, Helle had a troubled upbringing with mental health issues and criminal convictions. The two met at a psychiatric clinic in 2009. But unlike Isakin, Helle never allowed her past to turn her cruel. Maybe in her mind, she believed she could fix him. What she didn't realize was that her compassion would eventually cost her her own life.
By 2010, Helle had moved in with Isakin in a 3-bedroom apartment in Skara. The apartment was being paid for by Isakin's mother. This place was barely furnished, and the couple soon contacted social services for help to get basic furniture in the home. In the beginning, though, life seemed hopeful for them. Helle and Isakin genuinely appeared to enjoy their time together, and they talked about opening a tattoo and piercing studio right inside the very apartment. Helle's arrival in Isakin's life initially made everything feel brighter. Jamie even described that period of time as paradise and my perfect world. But this feeling of peace didn't last very long at all. After a short time together, Isakin and Helle got into extremely violent fights with each other. Jamie would even witness it when she would go visit her dad, and Isakin made no effort to hide it from her. Helle's family, especially her sister, Britt Christiansen, soon noticed the signs of what was going on. Britt tried her best to convince Helle to leave Isakin, but Helle refused to listen. Britt later recalled that the first time she had met Isakin, she said, "I immediately thought that he was not a good person and was worried that he would hurt her. He could seem scary, but was apparently kind to the children. I warned him not to touch my sister and said that then he would have to deal with me." Sometimes when she went to visit, her family would notice bruises all over her body, yet Helle always had an explanation ready. She protected Isakin, even at the expense of her own safety. No matter how severe the injuries were, she never reported him. Britt remembered one incident in particular. Helle arrived with her leg fractured in 3 different places. And when Britt pressed her about what happened, Helle simply laughed it off, claiming she had simply fallen or tripped on a trash shovel.
There were moments when things seemed to settle down, but only temporarily. During these rare peaceful periods, Helle and Isakin behaved like an entirely different couple, playful, lighthearted, and constantly joking around. Helle cherished those times more than anything. She wished they could last. But those good moments were always brief, and the storm would inevitably return. Around this time, the violence, shouting, and drama escalated. Whenever Jamie tried to stop the fight, she was pushed away. Jamie even recalled an incident where her father screamed at Helle that he'd kill her. The tension in the apartment was so suffocating that Jamie genuinely believed he would grab a knife and do it. Even as a child, she understood that her father was fully capable of such a crime. Jamie described the last time she ever saw Helle as the worst week of her childhood. When she visited her father that week, everything felt wrong. Helle wasn't speaking to her or giving her any attention. She seemed distant, exhausted, and deeply distressed. Helle cooked food that day aggressively, slamming the cabinet doors and pots as she moved around the kitchen. When she finally served Jamie her plate, she said, "Enjoy your meal. This is the last meal I will ever cook for you because Isakin is going to kill me." Then, in November of 2010, just days after Jamie left her father's house, it finally happened.
Ja, jag har gått och stekt in kött och ätit det.
Ja, då åt du köttet från henne också?
Va?
Shortly before the events of today's case, Helle talked to a woman at a local library near her home about where she could find a hostel, but on the condition that the librarian would not call the police. Not long after, around noon on November 12th, 2010, Isakin and Helle left their apartment together to go shopping. Isakin stopped at a liquor store where he bought 4 pints of beer and a bottle of Jägermeister. Meanwhile, Helle went to pick up some groceries. A few hours later, sometime between 5 and 7 p.m., they returned home and Helle laid down in the bedroom. She was reportedly resting on her stomach. It was then that Isakin picked up a knife, climbed onto the mattress, sat across Helle's shoulders, and slit her throat. As she bled out, he pressed a pillow against her neck. Helle had no idea what was coming, and she died shortly after her throat was cut. As tragic and heartless as this is not where Isakin's brutality ends. After killing her, Isakin tore apart all of Helle's clothes with a knife. Police reports indicate that he committed necrophilic acts on the body, but Isakin has repeatedly denied this ever happened. However, he did admit to everything else, including severing Helle's head using first a knife, then a saw, and finally an axe. Afterwards, Isakin began mutilating the rest of Helle's body. He cut pieces from her arms and legs, carried them into the kitchen, and cooked the severed parts in a frying pan with salt and cannabis leaves. He then brought Helle's severed head into the kitchen and attempted to smash it open. After committing this horrific crime, Isakin phoned the police to turn himself in. During the call, he calmly confessed, "I want to do the right thing for me. What I've done now, I have no idea that I've actually done, but I've woken up. When you come here, you don't have to jump on me. I'm as calm as you like." Isakin also reportedly admitted during the call that he had eaten parts of Helle's body. Helle's sister Britt later reacted to this horrific detail, saying, "The hardest part is what he did to her afterwards. That it wasn't enough to kill her. Just because he wanted to feel what human flesh tastes like, it hurt so damn much." The emotional toll it took on now 9-year-old Jamie's life was unimaginable. When she asked her mother for details, her mother chose not to reveal the truth, but Jamie eventually learned everything on her own after seeing a newspaper headline describing her father as the Skara Cannibal. She recalled the moment saying, "I remember feeling so sick to my stomach. It was just so disgusting, and I couldn't believe my dad had done that. It's really hard for me to grasp that my dad actually ate a human being." But that wasn't all. The kids around Jamie started avoiding her just because she was the daughter of the Skara Cannibal.
During his first police interrogation, Isakin claimed he became dangerous whenever he didn't take his medication. He said there had been a bit of a fight that day between him and Helle, but couldn't explain what pushed him to suddenly pull a knife and take her life. He showed no remorse, none at all. Instead, he distanced himself from his own actions, telling investigators, "It would have been a bit petty. I can be perceived as unmoved, but when it happened yesterday, I was in the guise of another. Someone else appeared in me." When he was asked why he tragically took Helle's life, he said, "I have no idea. It felt like there were several people in the room. It's almost like a movie playing." Isakin later told reporters, "That's something I also wonder about. I trust the doctors. There was no motive whatsoever. We were a couple with a future together. I've never felt this way with a girl before. However, he later reported that he only ate her to secure psychiatric treatment instead of jail time.
2 days later, on November 14th, Isakin was taken into custody. The following day, the Skara District Court ordered a full forensic psychiatric evaluation. Toxicology showed a significant level of intoxication as well as being under the influence of tramadol, which should never be mixed with alcohol, especially the amount that he drank. During a search of his apartment, police seized the frying pan used to cook Helle's flesh, the axe, the saw, and the knife. They also collected a stack of horror DVDs. The trial began on March 11th, 2011. By then, he had already confessed to everything, and the forensic psychiatric evaluation confirmed that he suffered from severe mental disorders. Psychiatrists also stated that Isakin experienced hallucinations. In court, Isakin's lawyer, Tora Brandler, argued that his client had been psychotic when the police arrived at the apartment. He claimed that the substances in Isakin's body had pushed him over the edge and essentially compelled him to commit the murder. His attorney also insisted that there was no motive behind the killing. However, the crime was so graphic and disturbing that when the prosecutor presented the crime scene photos, the court immediately moved the proceedings behind locked doors. Journalists and members of the public were subsequently escorted out. Eventually, Isakin was convicted of murder and sentenced to forensic psychiatric care with a special discharge review at Carsudden Hospital in Katrineholm. In addition to the sentence, he was ordered to pay 75,000 Swedish krona in damages to Helle's parents and 75,000 to each of her 5 children. This roughly equates to $8,000 per person US.
When he first arrived at the hospital, Isakin kept to himself, but later began to explore the grounds and connect with the other inmates. He also participated in strength training and was allowed to go on walks with caregivers. Still, Isakin was far from leaving his past behind. During his time at the hospital, he met Michelle Gustafsson, widely known in the media as the Vampire Woman. Michelle had much in common with Isakin as she had murdered a father of 4 in Stockholm in 2010. Although by her own account she did not remember murdering the father, she'd regularly write on her personal blog about how she was going to cut the throats of people on the Stockholm metro. On November 13, 2011, Isakin asked Michelle in a chat on Windows Live Messenger, "Will you be my girl?" By December 9th, they were reportedly engaged. Isakin shared that, "I love Michelle. I have never met anyone like her. I'd like to lead a non-criminal life." Michelle shared the same spark, saying, "We want to get to live together, keep dogs, and spend time on our hobbies, piercing and tattoos." But the couple soon made headlines again, even while in psychiatric custody. On February 23, 2012, Swedish media outlets reported that the two had been mockingly blogging about their crimes using a hospital computer. Isakin wrote, among other things, that he didn't care about what society thought of him or what he had done, saying, "Most people say at some point in their lives that they could never take someone else's life. But if you've done it once, it's not a big deal anymore." Ironically, the mad couple broke up sometime later. Isakin also boasted that he had manipulated the system, claiming he tricked doctors into sending him to forensic psychiatric care instead of prison. He stated, "I can be convicted but not punished with anything other than continued care. Hasn't Svensson understood that everything is a game and that this is just the beginning? Didn't Svensson understand that I have deliberately made sure to end up here for a reason?" To clarify, Svensson was one of the legal prosecutors involved in his case.
Around this time, Jamie went to visit her father at the hospital after 2 long years. She was anxious, unsure of what version of her dad she would meet. When Isakin finally walked out, he greeted her softly with, "Hello, my little angel," and pulled her into a tight hug. Jamie immediately broke down into tears. Later, Jamie recalled the reunion by saying, "He committed a murder that was talked about all over Sweden. And people were so scared of him. People talked about him like he was the biggest monster ever. And then he wasn't. He was just the same. To me, it was just my dad. I decided to accept that he had done what he had done because that would mean that I got my dad back. I could never get Helle back. But if I only forgave him, I would get my dad back. Being my dad back in my life after the murder was really the beginning of a complete nightmare." Jamie slowly began forming a stronger emotional bond with her father. 2 years later, she slipped into the same troubles her father once had. At 13, she began using drugs and drinking heavily. Everyone around her kept comparing her to her father, saying that she would end up just like him. She felt completely isolated, and with no one her age who could understand what she was going through, her father took advantage of her emotional state. She said, "He saw his chance to be the only one that I had. It would be me and him against the world." As Jamie's bond with her father grew stronger, she began confiding in him about the bullying that she faced. Instead of comforting her, Isakin handed her a voodoo doll and told her that wherever she placed a needle, her bully would feel the pain. At the same time, he encouraged Jamie to shut off her emotions completely, to lose all empathy, and be just like him. At that age, Jamie admired these ideas. She wanted to feel powerful. She wanted to stop caring about anything. And her father, cold and unbothered by the world, became the person she started idolizing. Yet, beneath all of this, she was collapsing internally. When Jamie opened up to her father, Isakin didn't offer support. Instead, he attempted to sell her soul to the devil, literally. He told her he had been waiting for this moment. According to him, there was a ritual he usually performed and claimed that Jamie was finally ready to take part in it. Isakin took his daughter's hand, began reciting a ritualistic chant, and instructed Jamie to repeat every word. The lines were so disturbing that even years later, Jamie refused to reveal what was said. After the ritual ended, Jamie felt as if her soul had left her body. In her words, "It felt in my body that we had left the room, that we weren't there anymore. We were like floating around in this darkness together."
By 2015, reports confirmed that Isakin had been granted a weekly 4-hour furlough. During these breaks, he would visit his daughter. Before this arrangement, Jamie had been already visiting him at the hospital at least once a month. But once the furloughs became regular, she rented an apartment close to the hospital so that her father could stay with her during his time outside. Their bond grew stronger and stronger. Jamie later described Isakin as her best friend, and the one I call when I had problems or felt bad. But during his very first visit in 6 years, Isakin fed Jamie a fabricated and deeply manipulative version of Helle's murder. He told her that Helle had begged him to kill her. He claimed that she had attempted to remove herself from this earth multiple times and had pushed him to the point where he had no choice. According to Isakin's twisted retelling, when he walked into the bedroom carrying an axe and a knife, Helle looked at him and nodded, giving him permission to murder her. Isakin claimed that he killed Helle in such a brutal and grotesque manner for Jamie, so that authorities would think he was insane and send him to psychiatric care instead of prison. He insisted he never wanted to kill Helle and that she somehow forced him into it. Nevertheless, Jamie didn't fully buy the story, but instead saw her dad for the killer he was for the first time.
In April and May of 2016, Isakin began uploading videos to YouTube. In these recordings, he rambled about fighting for survival, claiming that the meaning of life is survival, nothing more, because if you don't survive, you're dead. He explained that this philosophy kept him from ever questioning right and wrong. He also spoke about his drug-fueled hallucinations, saying he had seen devils and angels and aliens and everything, and that during his most f***ed up trip, he had completely given up. In another clip, he stated, "I'm not a racist, or I am a racist. I hate everyone except a few people in the world. So I'm a racist against the human species, if you want to label me. I see myself as anti-human. There's nothing about humans that I like. The only people in history who have any sense, as I see it, are the Vikings, the Spartans, and people like that." In another video, he spoke at length about his great interest in art, which he reportedly developed during his time in forensic psychiatric care. In others, he demonstrated his techniques. Meanwhile, Isakin was also granted his own apartment, the same place where he had previously been allowed to spend his furloughs. In the fall of 2016, he legally changed his surname from Jonsson to Drabbad. But even that was not without problems. His first application for the name change was rejected, so he submitted another handwritten request dated October 2016, and this time, the letter opened with the words, "Hey, you fucking idiot." As part of the letter read, "I have paid money for you to do your job. I, Isakin Jonsson, want to change my surname from Jonsson to the newly formed surname Drabbad. Make sure and do your damn job because I won't give in and let this go until I get my way. You're messing with the wrong guy." This formal request was somehow eventually granted. However, Isakin would later get into trouble for this in 2017 when he applied for a 3-day furlough. His request was objected to by a prosecutor who stated, in connection with an examination at the National Swedish Patent and Registration Office, he has acted very inappropriately and threateningly towards an administrator. Eventually, the Administrative Court of Appeal rejected his request. That same year, Isakin also claimed that he had received enough treatment and wished to end his psychiatric care. His request was denied. The court ruled that he still suffered from mental disorders and remained at risk of relapsing into dangerous criminal behavior.
In the summer of 2017, Isakin applied for a furlough so he could marry his new girlfriend, who was a carer working in the hospital. Unsurprisingly, once the hospital staff became aware of a possible relationship between the two, the carer resigned from her position and claimed that her connection with Isakin had always been strictly professional. But even after her resignation, she remained in contact with Isakin. Although she acknowledged having a friendly connection with him, she never confirmed any romantic involvement. Nonetheless, this confirms that not only did Isakin have mental issues, he was also delusional as he applied for a furlough to marry a woman who wasn't even willing to make their relationship public, that is, if they even had one to begin with. Now, due to security concerns, visiting restrictions were imposed on the former carer since she had previously worked at the hospital and had access to confidential information. That same year, he made headlines again after it was revealed that he had been selling voodoo dolls and other artwork containing blood and bodily fluids online, all while still inside the hospital. Around the same time, Isakin's own furloughs to his apartment were also revoked after he allegedly used illicit substances and disrupted an ongoing drug treatment program.
Sometime after this, Isakin screamed at Jamie over the phone. And the only person she believed truly understood her speak to her that way shattered her. Later, when he visited her apartment, Jamie gathered the courage to confront him and ask for an apology. Instead of remorse, Isakin exploded. He cursed at Jamie, screaming, and even threatened to kill her. Jamie ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife for self-defense. By the time she worked up the nerve to protect herself, Isakin had already stormed out and returned to the hospital. The moment she realized he was gone, she collapsed into tears. That incident was Jamie's breaking point. At the time, she was 19 years old, and she finally walked away from her father for good. In her words, something happened that made me feel like it wasn't safe for me to be in his closeness anymore. I felt like I wanted to get away from that part of my life and leave it. After this, Jamie's mother helped pull her out of the darkness her father had spent years trying to drag her into. She even made a Mother's Day post later to highlight her support in her life.
Most of you already know about my dad by now, but today I'd like to talk about my mum. To me, my mum means safety and love. I will never forget the night I came to my mum's after my dad tried to sell my soul to the devil, and I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was going insane. And she said to me, "Jamie, you can never be like him. Don't you know that you are love and light?" And she hugged me. And that's when I opened my heart for her again. I felt safe for the first time in years. Thank you, Mum, for reminding me that I'm love and light. I'm not my dad's darkness. I never was. And you knew that. You kept waiting for me. You knew all along that I was still in there. And you never stopped believing in me. You are the best mum in the world. And you don't have to worry about me anymore. I'm happy now. Everything is good. I'm safe. And I love you so much. Happy Mother's Day.
In 2020, Isakin was released from the psychiatric hospital in order to begin outpatient treatment, though he was still required to check in regularly. By August of that year, he had been granted an apartment in Katrine home, and in March of 2024, he reportedly moved into another residence. Then, in October of 2024, Jamie, now 23 years old, a mother of two, sat down with her father after 4 years of a complete silence. She wanted closure with him. The reunion was filmed and later released in the episode My Father the Cannibal from the 2025 investigation discovery series Evil Lives Here, The Killer Speaks. During this meeting, Isakin claimed he had been weak when he committed the murder. He said he once had everything: a beautiful woman, referring to Jamie's mother, and a daughter he wanted to be the best father in the world for. But at some point he wanted more, and that desire consumed him. He admitted that he frightened Jamie repeatedly when she was a child because he believed he was preparing her for the world. But now, looking back, he confessed that all he did was prepare her for his world. When Jamie asked about the ritual, Isakin responded by asking whether it made her life easier or not. Shockingly, Jamie admitted that in some ways it had. Isakin then apologized for not being apologetic about it. He insisted he was completely certain he had helped her, even describing the moment as something that he was proud of. When shown a picture of himself and Helle together and asked what he felt for her, Isakin still displayed no remorse. He said he felt nothing about her or about what he had done. He continued to blame Helle, claiming she had wanted him to do it, and that he finally acted when he lost control. He also stated that he committed the murder because he desperately needed help, and killing Helle was his way of forcing the system to notice his sickened state. Isakin added that he had killed Helle swiftly so she wouldn't feel pain. He stated, "It's not murder. I am not the murderer." However, he did also say in reference to the murder that, "You have to remember, I'm an artist." According to some reports, Isakin had previously spoken to Jamie's mother about wanting to taste human flesh. This directly contradicts his current claim that he only added those horrific details to the murder in order to appear insane. He stressed repeatedly that he is not insane. For anyone who chooses to believe that Isakin is the murderer and is insane, he replied harshly, calling them, and I quote, "a fucking idiot." Isakin also mentioned that he'd love to meet his grandchildren if Jamie ever agreed, though he acknowledged it would likely cause more trouble for her than good. Isakin still keeps his voodoo dolls and other disturbing objects in storage.
It's many. I can start with all the way in there with dolls. There's one.
That one was scary. Are these supposed to be scary?
No. I never think 1 second when I did it.
Someone told me that these dolls are cursed.
To me, they are pure positive, good.
Yeah.
Because it helped me. If I didn't had it under that period, I probably would have died.
When asked whether the reunion gave her the closure she had been searching for, Jamie said that in a way, it did. Isakin apologized for the things he had done, something he had never done before. But at the same time, Jamie emphasized that her father knows exactly how to act like a normal person when he wants to, and there's a possibility the apology wasn't genuine at all. Jamie still believes Isakin is capable of murder, but despite that, she chose to forgive him. Not for his sake, but to finally move forward and free herself from the weight of the past. Jamie has managed to build a stable and fulfilling life. She refuses to hide in shame or fear because of her father. Instead, she openly shares her story. Today, she is the author of Skara, Cannibal's Daughter, a book that talks about the horrors of growing up under the control of a literal psychopath. Helle's family, however, continues to grieve her loss. Isakin never served a single day in prison for Helle's murder. Her sister Britt said, "It makes me very angry that he, who has done something so sick, can move freely. I have written to him asking for an explanation, but he has not answered anything that can help us relatives move on."